Oh, wow. Hey, much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. How you guys doing? ¿Qué me dicen? What you guys saying? How's everything going? Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys making the time to do that. We outside. Literally, we outside. You might hear some birds chirping. We literally outside. We're about to read this book I bought. All right. I like to read it together with you. All right. Oh, wow. Hold up. Hold up. Welcome, welcome. Let me take off the video. Stop sharing. Wow. Pura vida. ¿Qué me dice mi gente? Pura vida. Wow. Guys, let me know the music and my voice. Make sure my voice can be heard. Make sure I adjust the music accordingly. That good right there? So I got my reading glasses on. We literally outside. I'm in my ranch in my backyard. It's like open, little chilly. Ironically, we're in the middle of our summers. We're literally about to hit like spring break, right? Like, and it's been pretty chilly, kind of rain when we're in a dry season. Weather's been kind of weird, so but we good. It's actually pretty cool. It's like maybe low 70s, high 60s, maybe. Could it be louder? Like, what could be louder, my voice or the music? Which one? Which one you guys want louder? Wow, wow, wow. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me reading. That's more important. Can you hear me? Wow, wow, wow. Take the red pill. Can anybody answer me? Hey, moderators, help me out. Can you guys hear me good? Can you even hear the music? Oh, the voice? So I'm live. I'm like on my speaker, on my computer. Is anybody else having a problem hearing my voice? I'm good? Okay. So Nicola, try to put your volume up. Try to put some headphones on, if anything. I'm sorry. It's good now? I didn't do anything. I guess I'm talking a little louder. Yeah. Can you guys hear the music too? A little bit? No? Okay. All good. I'm from Boston, so what do you think? Larry wants to know if I'm a Celtics fan. Little off topic here. Hey Larry, you can get contact me anytime you want to talk about stuff. I'm from Boston, so what do you think? We don't perpetrate. We don't perpetrate in Boston. We rep. Come on. You think I got the base hat on? We don't perpetrate like that. All right. We Boston for life. We don't change teams. We don't do it for no fashion. We don't do it for none of that. Right? Okay. I'm gonna be changing colors as the sun goes in and out and all that. It's like pink all around me. So, all right. So we're gonna get into this book. Hold on. I like to do some. My God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Test, test, test. Well, you guys can hear the music, right? Wow. Sorry about the live technical difficulties, guys. I want to make sure we got a good vibe going for the reading. All right. I know you can hear the music. Can you hear my voice though? Yeah, too. Let me bring this to the push. Should have got my mic, but my headset, but yeah. All right, you guys can hear me good. I'm gonna start reading. All right. Also, let me make sure that the music is not like louder than my voice. Let me know. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Today we're gonna do a reading about a book, right? I'm not gonna answer questions. So, like I said, if you guys want to talk to me, reach out to me. I'm on Telegram. I got my email on the YouTube main page. I got an Instagram page. I got a Patreon page. You know, you can contact me there for special requests. Let's try to stay on topic. Thank you. So, if you guys don't know, on every YouTube channel, you go to their about page and their email's always kind of listed there, the email they got associated with the account. So, it's right on the page. All clear now. We good. Yeah. I just didn't, you know what, guys? I didn't want to show this image. So, there's a reason I didn't want to show this image. But hold on, let me do something. I'll explain now. We do it like that. We do it like that. We do it like that. So last time I read a book, right? A modern book, because these are mostly the modern books, you know, books that are you gotta buy, purchase, they're hard to get. Um, they gave me a copyright strike. The author gave me a copyright strike for reading, reviewing the introduction of the book. This is all supposed to fall under fair use. Compared to the whole book, it's the introduction, a very small portion. So it's not about, I read the whole book. And just people being greedy and selfish, evil, really evil to do something like that to me. You know what I mean? Like we literally feed our families. You know, some people do feed their families with this stuff, guys. So like for somebody to do that just because they're not willing to be corrected in certain things, you know, peer reviewed. I guess they don't consider me a peer. I ain't got no degrees, right? But we're doing real peer review work and we're trying to get rid of all the hijacks, you know, all the assumptions. And and if it's about real history and you're into history, then you shouldn't care if somebody else helps you understand something and they got a source or proof for it and you're like, that you might have not even ever come across. You know what I mean? So I got the copyright strike. I had to do 90 days, right? Which I literally just expired like last week, a couple days ago. So I did the YouTube jail and I was like careful about what I read again, just in case, because 3 strikes, we out. You know, 3 strikes, they shut down the channel, guys. So imagine, this is what these people don't understand. They're so evil, right? So the author could have reached out to me and done the normal process, like give me 7 days to take down the video or contact her or whatever. I didn't even get that. So some people got more clout with YouTube or Google. Who knows why? Who knows why they connected, right? And they automatically get to just take your video down and give you copyright. No explanation, no time for you to dispute or or even say, okay, I'll take it down. Don't worry. You know what I mean? Um, it's just do it out of being evil. It's just so evil. So that lady, I'm not even gonna say her name, and then you know, Daniel Lowe, Daniel's son, he be messing up. He be messing with me and drop. Can't read his book, Forbidding Histories, you know, like even though we're helping them get sales, like they don't understand that. Like we're doing literally a review. And I'm sure out of all the subscribers I have, thousands would probably be interested in purchasing it. But not after what they did, right? So after I did that, people, yeah, I ain't gonna buy her. Anyways, we got a new book. And why I'm telling you this is because again, you guys see like we like I'm gonna just put it in the Most High's hands. Is what I'm trying to say. And here we go. Like, you know, and any evilness that people try to do, I rebuke it. Most High protect us, protect me, protect the channel, protect everything, protect the truth, right? From these gatekeepers and all these evil people, right? And again, disclaimer and fair use. We're doing this for education, review, critique. Buy the book if you like it. I'm gonna say the name of the book now. The book is called An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States. Okay. Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. And Roxanne, if you ever hear this, like, please, like, you don't want this on like this. You don't want people reading it. You're gonna get a lot of sales from this. A lot of people might not know your book. But if you don't like it, just reach out to me, the normal process, and I'll take it down. Please don't be evil. All right. Like, we're doing this for review. I see you got a lot of good reviews in the back of the book, so we're interested. All right. So fair use. I'm not even showing the pages. I'm just me. It's like me right here reading it. Like, you get what I'm saying? It's just me. So we're gonna go to the introduction of this page. All right. You guys can hear me good, right? Can you hear me good? Yeah. Shalom, shalom. I think we're just gonna get rid of the music, guys. All right. In the name of Hawa, Daisy, I don't do the. See, I don't do that. I don't do that. Like, we're not moving backwards, we're moving forwards. I grew up Catholic. I grew up all about Christianity, Catholic, and all that. I've been there. I know Hawa now. I know the Most High now, with all respect. Yeah, with all respect. The beginning, the fear of the Most High is the beginning of wisdom, right? We're in the Shabbat now. We're in the Shabbat. Want to get deep and religious. The fear of the Most High is the beginning of wisdom. You're not wise because you fear the wrong things. Be wise. Most High over everything. That really means something. MHOE. Most High over everything really means something, man. Like, Great Spirit, we're not talking about religion. We're not talking about Jesus. We're not talking about none of that. Anyways. So, this land, that's the name of the introduction. Yo, Top Cats, what's up, man? What's up, bro? Thank you for the donation, man. Appreciate it, bro. I'm here, man. I'm outside right here, waiting for you to come through, man. But don't be coming for like a weekend, bro. Come on, man. You gotta stay longer than that. So, under the crust of that portion of the earth called the United States of America, from California to the Gulf Stream waters, are interred the bones, villages, fields, and sacred objects of American Indians. They cry out for their stories to be heard through their descendants who carry the memories of how the country was founded and how it came to be as it is today. It should not have happened that the great civilizations of the Western Hemisphere, the very evidence of the Western Hemisphere, were wantonly destroyed. The gradual progress of humanity interrupted, set upon a path of greed and destruction. Choices were made that forged that path toward destruction of life itself. The moment in which we now live and die as our planet shrivels, overheated. To learn and know this history is both a necessity and a responsibility to the ancestors and descendants of all parties involved. I mean, even the colonists. So we do this for the ancestors, right? So don't hate, don't be evil on us. Let us educate the people for the ancestors, right? Anybody don't know legendary Top Cat? He's in the chat. Like, he has a channel. If you want to go support, check it out. All right, that's good work. It says, what historian David Chang has written about the land that became Oklahoma applies to the whole United States. Nation, race, and class converge in land. Everything in US history is about the land. Who oversaw and cultivated it? Fished its waters, maintained its wildlife. Who invaded and stole it? Again, who invaded and stole it? How it became a commodity, a real estate. Literally, that's what it says. A real estate, broken into pieces to be bought and sold on the market, right? To be bought and sold on the market. All right. So we're gonna continue without the music, guys, right? I know you're probably feeling the vibes because I want to do something, right? So we're gonna continue the book. The book is making a point about this land, right? The America, what happened. That's the introduction. All right. What we're gonna have playing in the background. We're gonna have something playing in the background while I read, okay? All right. We're gonna continue. I'm gonna move out the way a little bit just for the visuals, right? But you guys can still hear me, right? Okay, we're over here, we're just chilling, reading the book, right? So don't mind me too much. All right. We're gonna read. I'm gonna get closer so you guys can. Okay. So this background video, what I got playing right now is of two videos I got where I collected a lot of images of American Indians and different books and just kind of going over it. All right. So enjoy the visuals. All right. Yeah, my shade, those are the reading glasses. Those are my reading glasses. All right. So let's continue. Let's continue, right? It says US policies and actions related to indigenous peoples, though often termed racist or discriminatory, are rarely depicted as what they are. Classic cases of imperialism, any particular form of colonialism, settler colonialism. As anthropologist Patrick Wolf writes, the question of genocide is never far from discussions of settler colonialism. Land is life, or at least land is necessary for life. The history of the United States is a history of settler colonialism. All right? That's the history that they teach us. But that's not where it started, right? The founding of a state based on the ideology of white supremacy, the widespread practice of slavery. She says African, right? So we dodged the hijack of slavery itself, right? And a policy of genocide and land theft, right? So genocides are happening today, right? But genocides have happened in history and nobody talked about reparations for that stuff, right? Nobody's calling it a HOLO, right? Yeah, CAUST, right? Nobody's right. Nobody's saying nothing, right? But as they're saying right here in this book, that's what happened. Okay. Those who seek history with an upbeat ending, a history of redemption and reconciliation, may look around and observe that such a conclusion is not visible, not even in utopian dreams of a better society. Writing US history from an indigenous people's perspective requires rethinking, all right? Rethinking the consensual national narrative. That narrative is wrong or deficient, not in its facts, dates, or details, but rather in its essence. Inheriting the myth we've been taught in an embrace of settler colonialism and genocide. The myth persists, not for a lack of free speech or poverty of information, but rather for an absence of motivation to ask questions that challenge the core of the scripted narrative of the origin story, all right? How might acknowledging the reality of US history work to transform society? That is the central question this book pursues. All right, so a lot of good drops so far, you know, like she's making some good points, right? As we look at these images, do you remember who you are? Teaching American Indian studies. I always begin with a simple exercise. I ask students to quickly draw a rough outline of the United States at the time it gained independence from Britain. Invariably, most draw the approximate present shape of the United States from the Atlantic to the Pacific, the continental territory not fully appropriated until a century after independence from Britain. Invariably, most draw, what became independent in 1783. So this is when, it's not 1776, right? So in 1783, and we're going to break all this down in future videos, the Continental Congress and the Articles of Confederation and all that, the precedents before George Washington. I've been promising you guys that for years, and I always keep my promises, so we're going to definitely get into that. So in 1783, what became independent were the 13 British colonies hugging the Atlantic shore. When called on this, students are embarrassed because they know better. I assure them that they are not alone. I call this a Rorschach test of unconscious, manifest destiny. Embedded in the minds of nearly everyone in the United States and around the world. This test reflects the seeming inevitability of U.S. extent and power, its destiny, with an implication that the continent had previously been terra nullius, a land without people. Dodge the hijack. Woody Guthrie's "This Land is Your Land" celebrates that the land belongs to everyone, reflecting the unconscious manifest destiny we live with. Is this everybody's land, though? That's what she's getting at. But the extension of the United States from sea to shining sea was the intention and design of the country's founders. Free, in parentheses, land was the magnet that attracted European settlers. Many were slave owners who desired limitless land for lucrative cash crops. All right. So, I want to add here, many were not. Hundreds of thousands of them were indentured servants, convicts, prisoners of war, things like that too. After the War for Independence, but preceding the writing of the US Constitution, the Continental Congress produced the Northwest Ordinance. This was the first law of the incipient republic, revealing the motive for those desiring independence. It was the blueprint for gobbling up the British protected India Territory, Ohio country. On the other side of the Appalachians and the Alleghenies, Britain had made settlement there illegal with the proclamation of 1763 of conquest. In 1801, President Jefferson aptly described the new settler states' intentions for horizontal and vertical continental expansion, stating, however, our present interests may restrain us within our own limits, it is impossible to look forward to distant times when our rapid multiplication will expand itself beyond those limits and cover the whole northern, if not the southern continent, with a people speaking the same language, governed in similar form by similar laws. All right, that's what he was saying. That's like one world order, one world government. This vision of manifest destiny, and that was manifest destiny, right? Where they were going to manifest their destiny and make this their American dream, right? So this vision of manifest destiny found form a few years later in the Monroe Doctrine, signaling the intention of annexing or dominating former Spanish colonial territories in the Americas and the Pacific, which would be put into practice during the rest of the century. Origin narratives form the vital core of people's unifying identity and of the values that guide them. In the United States, the founding and development of the Anglo-American settler state involves a narrative about Puritan settlers who had a covenant with God to take the land. You guys hear that? So, what is a Puritan, right? Well, Puritan, pilgrim, right? What's a pilgrim, right? A pilgrim does a pilgrimage, right? A pilgrim does a pilgrimage to a holy land, right? So, right, they come into America, right? A pilgrimage is literally a migration or a travel to a holy land, not just anywhere, just but a specified holy land that anyone believes is the holy land. They make a pilgrimage there, just like Muslims go to Mecca, right, to make a pilgrimage, right? So when you're talking about pilgrims and Puritans, a lot of that is crypto Jews. We're talking about black folks, guys, Moors. Yeah. So I know you guys looking at images of black Indians. Don't forget black Europeans, all right? You can't be one-sided. So the origin narrative. So these Puritan settlers who had covenant with God to take the land, so when these Europeans were colonizing, even Columbus and a lot of them did it in a religious way. They said, "Hey, the God is on our side. He's giving us the Holy Land. Literally, He's giving us the Holy Land. We're gonna go evangelize these people. We're gonna save them." They fell, you know. They even the same people they're talking about, the Puritans, they wrote, "Oh, we are encountering the biblical people." Primary sources that we've read, right? They knew where they were coming. They knew where they were coming, right? So they made a covenant with God to take the land. All right, it's deep. When people are stuck on a religious thing, you know, religions create wars, conquer people, and that's what they did, right? So that part of the origin story is supported and reinforced by the Columbus myth and the doctrine of discovery. All right, the doctrine of discovery. Hey Larry, what you mean you don't believe? So Europeans came with many shades, guys. Like hundreds and thousands of them were black, yeah, but you know, there was some lighter, paler people there. And we've seen the manifest. We've seen the descriptions of the people, right? Even if 90% were melanated, there were some light-skinned people here and there. Okay. But anyways, as she was saying, this is the whole Columbus myth that he was lost, that you know, we found savages, the doctrine of discovery, that oh, because they discover this land, you know, with savages, they get to inhabit it. Believe it or not, right now we're looking at those two last images were Indians from Mexico. Tepecano Indians from Mexico. All right. Anyways, let's keep reading, guys. Where was I? So, according to a series of late 15th century papal bulls, European nations acquired title to the lands they discovered. The papal bulls, right? They got the right to come take your kingdoms, principalities, dukedoms, everything. Because you're an enemy of Christ. An enemy of Christ. That's what I'm saying. In the name of this, when you're saying, oh, I'm going to pray for you in the name of this, well, they conquered us in that same name, using that same word you're praying to, right? Enemies of Christ, enemies of Jesus. Yeah, they called us enemies of Christ. Listen, most high over everything. There ain't no in betweens. You got to break out of that. Okay. But I'll let you have your own journey and discovery and relationship, you know, with your creator. So these papal bulls by the Vatican, right? where they said go enslave them all, go for perpetual servitude that we're still under. You guys don't know, dum diversus, right? Dum diversus means until different. We're still under that. We're still under Vatican rule, Roman rule right now, okay? So these 15th century papal bulls, European nations acquired title to the lands they discovered. And the indigenous inhabitants lost their natural right. All right, they lost their natural right to that land after Europeans arrived and claimed it. As law professor Robert A. Williams observes about the doctrine of discovery, responding to the requirements of a paradoxical age of Renaissance and Inquisition, the West's first modern discourses of conquest articulated a vision of all humankind united under rule of law discoverable solely by human reason. Unfortunately for the American Indian, the West's first tentative steps towards this noble vision of law of nations contained a mandate for Europe's subjugation of all peoples, whose radical divergence from European-derived norms of right conduct signified their need for conquest and remediation. The Columbus myth suggests that from U.S. independence onward, colonial settlers saw themselves as part of a world system of colonization. All right, there you go, some Black Europeans right there. There you go. What? The Habsburg. There goes the Vatican. We talking about Vatican Papal Bull. You see, you thought it was white folks, right? You think I'm talking about the white man came here and took your land? Break out of those hijacks, those personal biases. I still get comments like that a lot. Like everybody wants to be 100% something. All right. I hope you're enjoying the images while we're reading. Pretty cool, right? Anyways, Chica took home. Look at that. Yeah. These are like historical drawings from like old books, right? So where were we? Colombia, the poetic Latin name used in reference to the United States from its founding throughout, let me see. The 19th century was based on the name of Christopher Columbus. So not really. That goes back to like Queen Columbia, you know, that goes way back. But remember, that's not his real name. His name was Salvador Fernandez Sarco. He was a Portuguese Sephardic Jew, so-called black man, Mr. So-called Columbus. Hey, Kaija, you gotta catch up. Like, it's deeper, you know, the blackface thing, that's deeper than all that. You gotta, like, it was, we're talking about Europe, the whole world was melanated, guys. Like, right? We can agree with that with Pan-Africans, but they didn't come out of Africa. Okay? So let's keep going. So the land of Columbus was and still is represented by the image of a woman in sculptures and paintings, by institutions such as Columbia University, and by countless place names, including that of the national capital, the District of Columbia. All right, so again, that goes back to ancient times, has nothing to do with Columbus. Like she ain't going deeper now, right? But you know, that goes way back with the whole what they say, Sumerian, Babylonian gods and deities. What is the, you know, we've gone over this. The 1798 hymn, Hail Columbia, was the early national anthem and is now used whenever the Vice President of the United States makes a public appearance. And Columbus Day is still a federal holiday, despite Columbus never having set foot on the continent claimed by the United States. So when did she write this book? Because I think they changed that, right? If I'm not mistaken, it's Indigenous Day, right? World Indigenous Day or something. Or I think I might be wrong, but I think call it Columbus Day. But she's right. He never even stepped foot in the United States, right? He never stepped foot in the United States. So I don't know why we even had a holiday for him. Traditionally, historians of the United States, hoping to have successful careers in academia and to author lucrative school textbooks, became protectors of this origin myth. With the cultural upheavals in the academic world during the 1960s, engendered by the civil rights movement and student activism, historians came to call for objectivity and fairness and revising interpretations of US history. They warned against moralizing, urging instead a dispassionate and culturally relative approach. Historian Bernard Sheehan, in an influential essay called for a cultural conflict, understanding of Native Euro-American relations in the early United States, writing that this approach diffuses the locus of guilt. In striving for balance, however, historians spouted platitudes. There were good and bad people on both sides. American culture is an amalgamation of all its ethnic groups. A frontier is a zone of interaction between cultures, not merely advancing European settlements. Later, trendy postmodernist studies insisted on indigenous agency, in parentheses, under the guise of individual and collective empowerment, making the casualties of colonialism responsible for their own demise. Perhaps worst of all, some claimed and still claim that the colonizer and colonized experienced an encounter and engaged in a dialogue, thereby making reality with justifications and rationalizations. In short, apologies for one-sided robbery and murder. In focusing on cultural change, in parentheses, and conflict between cultures, in parentheses, the United States and its implications for the present and future. This approach to history allows one to safely put aside present responsibility for continued harm done by the past and the questions of reparations, restitution, and reordering society, all right? That's how they get away with it, because they're not even like I said earlier, some people get reparations and they get acknowledged and oh, don't talk about that. They've been through so much. But others, you from Africa, what you talking about? You Mongol, or you this, or you white, or you know, crayon colors, right? So guys, if you've never seen this is from old videos I got, like catch up. There's some amazing stuff I've shown. If you've never seen what I'm showing right now, because you just got to the channel, that's okay. But I hope you guys understand that my old videos are not irrelevant. They're still relevant, especially if you're new to my channel. Catch up. You guys are gonna understand. You're gonna see the journey. All right. That's why redoing this is important, because I know a lot of people don't go back. A lot of people don't go back. You know. Anyways, let's continue. Multiculturalism became the cutting edge of a post-civil rights movement, US history revisionism. For this scheme to work and affirm US historical progress, indigenous nations and communities had to be left out of the picture. Again, for this scheme to work and affirm US historical progress, there can't be a USA, there can't be this, what we have today, America, make America great again. All this, that's bull, right? You can't have all this. Because for this scheme to work and affirm this, indigenous nations and communities had to be left out of the picture. And this is what I'm showing you guys right now. These people were left out of the picture, right? Now we understand on a deeper level. We got to tell the truth. If the truth was told in our history classes, we wouldn't be over here talking about Pan-Africanism. Everybody came out of somewhere, one place in the world where there's no proof of. And we're talking about when their proof is bones they find that are actually not even modern type humans, they're still ape. there's no missing link, there's no link to modern humans, then that's what they're going off, Darwinism. When I'm showing you, look at these old paintings. This is from uh, uh, the John Carter Library, I think. I forget the name. But this is a very, I mean, go watch the videos, guys. But this is old. This is an old drawing. Anyways. As territorially and treaty-based peoples in North America, they did not fit the grid of multiculturalism. Listen, as territorially and treaty-based peoples in North America, they did not fit the grid of multiculturalism, but were included by transforming them into an inchoate, oppressed, racial group. Oh my God, body back to the illusion. She's literally telling you without telling you right here. What happened to them? They were transformed. They were transformed. These Indians, they were transformed. I'm going to quote verbatim. They were transforming them, by transforming them into an inchoate, oppressed racial group. While colonized Mexican Americans and Puerto Ricans were dissolved into another such group. Wow, it's like, you're either Mexican or Puerto Rican, right? What happened to all the rest of this country? Like, so, all right, but I get what she's saying, right? So Mexican Americans and Puerto Ricans were dissolved into another such group, variously called Hispanic or Latino, right? That's a hijack too, guys. That's a hijack. I ain't Latin. I'm not Hispanic. From Hispania, from Spain. Are you English? Because you speak English? So are you just English because you speak English? I'm not Spanish just because I speak Spanish. I'm not Latin. Latin, we're talking about ancient times, right? What are you talking about? Well, if one of my ancestors were, well, that's maybe they were. Maybe some of my ancestors were Latin. Maybe some of yours were too. These were black folks. Yeah, it's different when everybody was so-called, right? Oh no, no, not my people. My people from America. We Indians, 100%. Kurimeo, 100%. Not me, man. All right. All right, man. If it helps you sleep at night, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I'm just messing with y'all, right? Because I get a lot of comments, like people are like, they coming from these black only Indian channels and they think they're gonna come over here and just be biased on one side because those other people ain't teaching them about black Europeans, about their whole genealogy, not just part or uh, yeah, it may be for some large percentage. For some of you, maybe a lower percentage. Okay, but you still got to tell both stories. So she's saying, this is deep. This is so deep because, and I know we can tell she was talking about black folks, right? Because she went from saying they became a racially oppressed group, they were transformed, and then she goes, also, it happened to Hispanics. Hispanics, like she's literally saying it happened to Hispanic Latinos too, right? After what she just said, she didn't say who she was talking about before. She just wants you to assume Native Americans, like what they chose in Google, right? Are they really oppressed like that racially? Like who's really been more in his like? Anyways, we'll keep going. I got what you were saying though. I like how you did that. Good, the author. I appreciate you throwing in there. You did it subliminally, so you can get the funding and all that. But it's all good. Like we respect that. Like we understand. Anyways, so the multicultural approach emphasized the contributions of individuals from oppressed groups to the country's assumed greatness. Indigenous peoples were thus credited with corn, beans, buckskin, log cabins, parkas, maple syrup, canoes, hundreds of place names, Thanksgiving, and even the concepts of democracy and federalism. But this idea of the gift-given Indian helping to establish and enrich the development of the United States is an insidious smokescreen meant to obscure the fact that the very existence of this country is a result of the looting of an entire continent and its resources. Entire continent of its resources. Okay? The fundamental unresolved issues of indigenous lands, treaties that weren't kept, and sovereignty could not but scuttle the premises of multiculturalism. Okay? Multiculturalism. I'm gonna move out the camera so you guys can get like the sources and stuff, for a little bit. I know you like some of y'all like seeing me reading shit, but all right. So with multiculturalism, manifest destiny won the day. Right? Oh, now we are multicultural. Oh, we this, we that. Yeah, nah, that's manifest destiny. Everybody wasn't the same, is the point. As an example, in 1994, Prentice Hall, part of Pearson Education, published a new college level US history textbook, authored by 4 members of a new generation of revisionist historians. These radicals, in 94, right? They just rewriting history again. So these radical historians, revisionists, radical social historians are all brilliant scholars with posts in prestigious universities, right? These are supposed to be your scholars. The book's title reflects the intent of its authors and publishers. Out of many, a history of the American people. So they're trying to say, oh, we many people. Yeah, we, right? Including themselves, right? The origin story of supposedly unitary nation, albeit now multicultural, remained intact. The original cover design featured a multicolored woven fabric. This image meant to stand in place of the discredited melting pot. Inside, facing the title page, was a photograph of a Navajo woman, dressed formally in velvet and adorned with heavy sterling silver and turquoise jewelry, with a traditional Navajo dwelling, a hogan in the background. The woman was shown kneeling in front of a traditional loom, weaving a nearly finished rug. The design, listen to this, the stars and stripes. The authors, upon hearing my objection and explanation that Navajo weavers made their livings off commissioned work that includes the desired design, responded, but it's a real photograph. To the author's credit, in the second edition, they replaced the cover photograph and removed the Navajo picture inside, although the narrative text remains unchanged. Awareness of the settler colonialist, context of US history writing is essential if one is to avoid the laziness of the default position and the trap of mythological unconscious belief in manifest destiny. The form of colonialism that the indigenous peoples of North America have experienced was modern from the beginning. The expansion of European corporations backed by government armies. All right, they came ready, guys. Listen, this is real. It's business. These are corporations. This is a corporation. This is not a country. It's a corporation. Hey, Molly, what you doing? Get out the camera, Molly. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Molly was trying to get the limelight. Molly's my little chihuahua. All right. So, where were we? So this was from the beginning. They came ready to do business, right? Molly, you're still in the camera, Molly. Hold on. There we go. The Temple of Tolomeco. Remember that video, guys? The pearls inside. That's like in the Appalachians right here. This is what was in the Appalachians. Look at that. A temple full of pearls. I think in Georgia. I think this was in Georgia, actually. My fault. Georgia. So, Georgia or Alabama. Let's go ahead and watch the video. So, this was a company, a corporation from the beginning, right? That's what they're saying here. So they came already with the European corporations backed by government armies into foreign areas, with subsequent expropriation of lands and resources. Settler colonialism is a genocidal policy. Native nations and communities, while struggling to maintain fundamental values and collectivity, have from the beginning resisted modern colonialism, using both defensive and offensive techniques, including the modern forms of armed resistance, of national liberation movements, and what now is called terrorism. In every instance, they have fought for survival as peoples. The objective of US colonialist authorities was to terminate their existence as peoples. Listen, again, I know it's hard to look at what I'm showing and pay attention to me, and because I'm not showing the book this time, but I'm reading. But listen, the objective of US colonialist authorities was to terminate their existence as a people, not to eliminate them completely, but to erase them as a people. What does that sound like, guys? Psalms 83, right? Let's erase them from being a nation so they are no longer remembered. Remembered how? As a people. Same thing. As a people. Not as random individuals. This is the very definition of modern genocide, as contrasted with pre-modern instances of extreme violence that did not have the goal of extinction. The United States as a social, economic, and political entity is a result of this centuries-long and ongoing colonial process. Today's indigenous nations and communities are societies formed by their resistance, right, to colonialism, although which they have carried their practices and histories. It is breathtaking, but no miracle that they have survived as a people. It's a miracle that we've survived as a people, in whatever category they put us now these days, right? All right. It's a miracle your people have survived, guys. But is it a miracle or is it, yeah, because you are the miracle. You are the miracle. Wow. Most High got our back. But we got to keep the code. That's why we were allowed. We fell off, guys. Like, all right. How about Papa Boo and religion? And this is a covenant with that covenant the Puritans are talking about. Yeah, Deuteronomy 28. The curses. They were the ones who came and inflicted them. They were the ones used. That's their covenant. They just seen it in a different way. But yeah, they played the role. Columbus knew too. So-called Columbus. Wow. So right now there's no images. I'm reading about the pearls and the Temple of Ptolemaico. Go watch the whole video, guys, so you can hear what, if I'm covering it. I'll move as soon as the images come back, right? Yeah. To say that the United States is a colonialist settler state is not to make an accusation, but rather to face historical reality, without which consideration not much in US history makes sense, unless indigenous peoples are erased. All right? Unless indigenous peoples are erased, reclassified, right? Relocated, enslaved, paper genocide, not just physical genocide, but paper genocide. But indigenous nations, though resistance have survived, or through resistance, have survived and bear witness to this history. You're still here, bro. We still here. In the era of worldwide decolonization, in the second half of the 20th century, the former colonial powers and their intellectual apologists mounted a counterforce, often called neo-colonialism, from which multiculturalism and postmodernism emerged. Although much revisionist US history reflects neo-colonialist strategy, an attempt to accommodate new realities in order to retain the dominance neo-colonialist methods signal victory for the colonized. Such approaches pry off a lid long kept tightly fastened. One result has been the presence of significant numbers of indigenous scholars in US universities who are changing the terms of analysis, right? indigenous scholars, not only in universities, because they ain't really, they got gatekeepers there. They can't really say too much about indigenous scholars on these YouTube streets, YouTube universities, huh? The main challenge for scholars in revising US history in the context of colonialism is not lack of information, nor is it one of methodology. Certainly, certainly difficulties with documentation are no more problematic than they are in any other area of research. Rather, the source of the problems has been refusal or inability of US historians to comprehend the nature of their own history, US history. The fundamental problem is the absence of the colonial framework. Through economic penetration of indigenous societies, the European and Euro-American colonial powers created economic dependency and imbalance of trade, then incorporated the indigenous nations into spheres of influence and controlled them indirectly or as protectorates, all right? That's what they did to you with indispensable use of Christian missionaries and alcohol. All right. Look at how life is. Right now, we're talking about the exact same thing they're showing in this image, this Christian, this missionary is giving this guy, this chief, I forget his name, the Bible. He's like, here, learn it, you're gonna be saved. And he literally put it on his ear and he's like, I don't hear nothing. I don't see anything. What you talking about? This Bible don't work. That was funny how see how that happened at the same time. That's Hawa, guys. Hawa knew, Hawa planned this long ago already. Me reading this and this videos I did years ago coming together like this. Like right when we're reading that part, the missionary was doing the same thing in the image. And look at, they're still doing it right here. Right? That's Hawa right there, man. We on automatic. We already won, guys. If we just surfing the wave, we riding the wave. Halal Hawa. Shout out to Drop, yo. Okay, where were we? So these Christian missionaries, right? They brought the religion and alcohol, right? Religion and alcohol, right? Look at them. Look at them. Look at them right here in this image. Same thing we're talking about right now. In the case of US settler colonialism, land was a primary commodity. They wanted your land. There's such obvious indicators of colonialism at work. Why should so many interpretations of US political economic development be convoluted and obscure, avoiding the obvious? To some extent, the 20th century emerged of the field of US West or borderlands history has been forced into an incomplete and flawed settler colonialist framework. The father of that field of history, Frederick Jackson Turner, confessed as much in 1901. Our colonial system did not start with the Spanish War, 1898. The US had a colonial history and policy from the beginning of the Republic, but they have been hidden under the phraseology of interstate migration and territorial organization, right? Hey, Claiborne, Merritt, thank you. Much love, bro. Thank you for the donation. Thank you. Settler colonialism as an institution or system requires violence, all right? It requires violence or the threat of violence to attain its goals, all right? Look at that, massacre of Roanoke. Yeah, so when you meet us with violence, you get violence back, right? That's the way they're showing right here. People do not hand over their land, resources, children, and futures without a fight. And that fight is met with violence. Wow. Wow, guys. Like, see, this is what I'm saying. We was just looking at an image of an Indian fighting back. She just said that. As we're reading, like, I didn't plan none of it, right? You already see how this works. This is how I be when I do my research, and it's all automatic. When you're in the frequency of truth, you ride, you surf the wave. All right, let's go. So when you come here with violence, of course, you're gonna get met with some violence. People are gonna defend themselves, right? And employing the force necessary to accomplish its expansionist goals, a colonizing regime institutionalizes violence. That's what they do today. What's going on in the Middle East, huh? Institutionalized violence. All right, same thing. They got the plan here. They did it. Remember what we learned about Africa? They did it in Africa. They came to the Americas. They did it here. Now they're doing it all over the world, right? Yeah. That's a fusion right here. That's a fusion from Terra del Fuego, all right? Patagonia, South America. They always try to whitewash these people. These are the drawings Darwin made. Darwin, before he wrote his book of relativity, his evolution, right? He went, this is the one right here. This is the one, this is the book, I'm talking about it right now. This is the book he wrote. He met the fusions. He said these are the oldest example of humans in the world. One of the oldest examples of humans in the world. He said the fusions. You go read that book, right? So Darwin knew what was up before he wrote his Out of Africa stuff. That's a hijack. That was part of hiding what he had just revealed, what he had just learned while he traveled to the Americas on his beagle, right? That's what he called it. All right, you see? Jamaica, Jamaica. What you talking about out of Africa? Come on now. Look at this, man. Look at this, man. Yeah. All right. So, the father of that field of history, Frederick Jackson Turner, confessed as much in 1901. Our colonial system did not start with the Spanish War, 1898. The US had a colonial history and policy from the beginning of the Republic, but they have been hidden under the phraseology of interstate migration and territorial organization, right? Which we just read. Settler colonialism as an institution or system requires violence. Oh, sorry, guys. I read all this already. My fault. I lost my place. Okay, so and employing the force necessary to accomplish its expansionist goals, it colonizing regime institutions violence. The notion that settler indigenous conflict is an embeddable product of cultural differences and misunderstandings, or that violence was committed equally by the colonized and the colonizer, blurs the nature of the historical processes. All right, so that's not true. That whole philosophy they had, well, it was inevitable, like we're different, we were going to war. Nah, we were very peaceful, a lot of us. We let you in our land, we fed you, we clothed you. We weren't trying to war. We knew better not to war. We'd rather preserve life than war. So no, all that doesn't know. That wouldn't have happened. You don't know that. You created war. You brought the evils. So when I say you, you know what I mean. And I'm not saying you to separate even me, guys. Like I got Sephardic Moorish ancestry, Spanish and Portuguese that came to Costa Rica mixed with the Indians. So I'm including when I say you, I mean you, that part of us. Yeah, you too. And I know they draw the Europeans all white here, but that's the thing. This is books from the 1800s. But they knew at least they couldn't hide the Indians. They just trying to set a certain picture back then with so-called white. Yeah. So let's continue reading. Euro-American colonialism, an aspect of the capitalist economic globalization, had from its beginning a genocidal tendency. The term genocide was coined following the Shoah or Holocaust, all right, listen, and its prohibition was enshrined in the United Nations Convention adopted in 1948, right? Now, this convention is supposed to prevent future genocide, right? and it's failing to do that. It's failing to do that right now in the Middle East. And we get censored, and I got right now until May, they put me on a hate thing because of my Chasar videos. So I'm fighting that too, guys. You don't even know, like, I had to take this training for hate and just like court systems in the US. Just because we did the Chasar videos. You guys don't know what we go through in the background. But listen to what she's saying. That whole term began because of what happened to them, right? Which they themselves created, their own people. All right, that's a whole other story. Anyways, the UN Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, that's what it's called. The convention is not retroactive, but it is applicable to US indigenous relations since 1988, when the US Senate ratified it. The terms of the Genocide Convention are also useful tools for historical analysis of the effects of colonialism in any era. In the convention, any one of 5 acts is considered genocide if committed with intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group. So killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, right? All this is happening still today, and especially in the Middle East, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. This is all happening right now in Palestine, guys. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group, all right? In the 1990s, the term ethnic cleansing became a useful descriptive term for genocide. So genocide sounded too ugly, so they said, well, let's call it ethnic cleansing. Let's call it. US history, as well as inherited indigenous trauma, cannot be understood without dealing with the genocide that the United States committed against indigenous peoples. From the colonial period through the founding of the United States and continuing in the 20th century, this has entailed torture, terror, sexual abuse, massacres, systematic military occupations, removals of indigenous peoples from their ancestral territories, and removals of indigenous children to military-like boarding schools. The absence of even the slightest note of regret or tragedy in the annual celebration of the US independence betrays a deep disconnect in the consciousness of US Americans. Settler colonialism is inherently genocidal in terms of the Genocide Convention, in their own words. In the case of the British North American colonies and the United States, not only extermination and removal were practiced, but also the disappearing of the prior existence of indigenous peoples. And this continues to be perpetuated in local histories, all right? So I thought this was very, this right here, just real quick, guys, this image. You see how they got horses running wild? This is a very old book. They're showing you that horses were running wild. Horses were here when the Europeans arrived, okay? Either way, you guys hear, she's making a point. Nobody, this is what I was saying earlier, nobody's talking about reparations or repairing or reinstituting, right, the American Indians. The ones who can prove it, you got the genealogy, right? This is funny how the images are coming up like, it's making sense with what we're talking about. That's how wild, right? We on our back. Yeah. That's the people you committed genocide on. Look, the N-word has been applied as a derogatory term for American Indians, okay? All right. All right. So it says Anishinaabe, or the Ojibwe historian Gene O'Brien names this practice of writing Indians out of existence firstin and lastin. All over the continent, local histories, monuments, and signage narrate the story of first settlement, the founders, the first school, first dwelling, first everything, right? First this, first that, first this. They act like all this stuff wasn't here. She's making a point like, oh, first this, the first that, the first this. Look at this. Negroes to be continued. Hold on. Let me put another one on. To be continued. Hold on, I got another one. I got another one. Let's go to the part two. Let's go part two. Hold on. There we go. There we go. You saw that, right? Oh, we continue. And ever since then, we've been continuing. This is like 5, 6 years old, these videos right here. Yep. So now they're talking about, yeah, this is the first this, the first that. We had all that. This is the true old world. What you talking about, man? What you talking about, man? So the first everything, as if there had never been occupants who thrived in those places before Euro Americans. On the other hand, the national narrative tells of the last Indians or last tribes, right? They're always saying, oh, the last Indian died, the last Indian went extinct, right? They're always trying to say. On the other hand, yeah, so the last Indians or the last tribes, such as the last of the Mohicans, right? That's what they put in your mind. They ingrain these kind of things in your mind, so you assume that's the last of the Mohicans, right? Ishi, the last Indian, an end of the trail, as a famous sculpture by James Earl Fraser is titled. Documented policies of genocide on the part of US administrations can be identified in at least 4 distinct periods: the Jacksonian era of forced removal, the California Gold Rush in Northern California, the post-Civil War era of the so-called Indian Wars in the Great Plains, and the 1950s termination period, all of which are discussed in the following chapters. Cases of genocide carried out as policy may be found in historical documents, as well as in the oral histories of indigenous communities. An example from 1873 is typical, with General William T. Sherman writing, "We must act with vindictive earnestness against the Sioux, even to their extermination, men, women, and children. During an assault, the soldiers cannot pause to distinguish between male and female, or even discriminate as to age." As Patrick Wolf has noted, the peculiarity of settler colonialism is that the goal is elimination of indigenous populations in order to make land available to settlers. That's why they do this. Why would they do all this, Kurimeo? The project is not limited to government policy, but rather involves all kinds of agencies, voluntary militias, and settlers themselves acting on their own, doing their own, making, what do you say, taking law into their own hands, right? In the wake of the US 1950s termination and relocation policies, a pan-indigenous movement arose in tandem with the powerful African-American civil rights movement. Oh, it happened at the same time, huh? Happened at the same time, right? So check this out. If you actually go to Wikipedia, you put civil rights movement, you're gonna see it says American Indian. So it was always about Indian stuff. Look how she combined that right here. It's telling you literally. So they joined up with what? The so-called African American civil rights movement of the 1960s. The indigenous rights movement succeeded in reversing the US termination policy. However, repression, armed attacks, and legislative attempts to undo treaty rights began again in the late 1970s, giving rise to the international indigenous movement, which greatly broadened the support for indigenous sovereignty and territorial rights in the United States. The early 21st century has been increased exploitation of energy resources, begetting new pressures on indigenous lands. Exploitation by the largest corporations, often in collusion with political and local, state, and federal levels, and even within some indigenous governments, could spell a final demise for indigenous land bases and resources. Strengthening indigenous sovereignty and self-determination to prevent that result will take general public outrage and demand, which in turn will require that the general population, those descended from settlers and immigrants, know their history, and assume responsibility. We're talking about both so-called black, so-called white. We ain't just talking about white Europeans. And that's the thing a lot of us can't do. We don't hold accountable our own ancestors that might have been part of that too. Oh, let me get my foot out the way. My fault, my fault. So, hey guys, there's some real stuff being said here. I know a lot of you not ready for all the realness, but once you see truth, you see truth is only going to lead you to realizing that you're much bigger than just one thing. All right. My fault. I can't remember where I'm looking for where it was, guys. I'm still here. Wow. I'm gonna just begin here. I don't know where I left off. It's like very small letters, that's why. The early 21st century has been increased exploitation of energy resources, begetting new pressures on indigenous lands, exploitation by the largest corporations, often in collusion with political, at local, state, and federal levels, and even within some indigenous governments, could spell a final demise for indigenous land bases and resources, strengthening indigenous sovereignty and self-determination to prevent that result will take general public outrage and demand, which in turn will require that the general population, those descended from the settlers and immigrants, okay, here we are, sorry, know their history and assume responsibility. Resistance to these powerful corporate forces continues to have profound implications for U.S. social, economic, and political development and the future. There are more than 500 federally recognized indigenous communities and nations, right? And there's millions of people that are not recognized, and probably thousands of tribes and nations that are not recognized because of one thing, guys, because of their complexion and what they look like, because they said that all these people are supposed to be Africans because they look a certain way, right? And look at all these images I'm showing you, right? This is actual from the codices of the Mexicans themselves. When the Europeans came, they drew this. These are facsimiles. That's what a codex is a facsimile, meaning a copy of an original from the 1500s, 1600s, right? That's when they did these. So more than 500, he's saying, comprising nearly 3 million people in the United States, the ones that are recognized, right? And then, so imagine all the millions that are not recognized, right? These are the descendants of the 15 million original inhabitants of the land. So that's the hijack right here, this part, like, those are not the only descendants, right? Just because you're not in a reservation doesn't mean you're not an American Indian, all right? Like, that's a very silly notion. But anyways, the U.S. establishment of a system of Indian reservations stemmed from a long British colonial practice in the Americas. In the era of U.S. treaty making from independence to 1871, the concept of the reservation was one of the indigenous nation reserving a narrow land base from a much larger one in exchange for U.S. government protection from settlers and the provision of social services. In the late 19th century, as indigenous resistance was weakened, the concept of the reservation changed to one of land being carved out of the public domain of the United States as a benevolent gesture, a gift to the indigenous peoples. Rhetoric changed so that the reservations were said to have been given or created for Indians. You guys see how they flipped all this? Reservations meant something else at first, and it was really supposed to be to help and protect some of the original people. All right. But they switched up the words now, like, nah, we gave it to them, we were being nice to them. Don't be ungracious. All right. We gave you a little piece of land. We created this for you. With this shift, Indian reservations came to be seen as enclaves within a state, boundaries, despite the political and economic reality. The impression to many was that indigenous people were taking a free ride on public domain. That's so messed up because that's not all the Indians, right? Well, wow. Beyond the land bases within the limits of the 310 federally recognized reservations, among 554 indigenous groups, indigenous land, water, and resource rights extend to a federally acknowledged indigenous communities within the borders of the United States. This is the case whether within the original or subsequently acquired territory thereof, and whether within or without the limits of a state, and includes all allotments, as well as rights of way running to and from them. Not all the federally recognized indigenous nations have land bases beyond government buildings, and the lands of some native nations, including those of the Sioux in the Dakotas and Minnesota, and the Ojibwes in Minnesota, have been parceled into multiple reservations, while some 50 indigenous nations that had been removed to Oklahoma were entirely allotted, divided by the federal government into individual native-owned parcels. Attorney Walter R. Echo Hawk writes, in 1881, Indian landholdings in the United States had plummeted to 156 million acres. By 1934, only about 50 million acres remained. So you guys see that? That's a big amount lost. An area the size of Idaho and Washington. Wow. As a result of the General Allotment Act of 1887, during World War II, the government took 500,000 more acres for military use. You guys hear that? Over 100 tribes, bands, and rancherias relinquished their lands under various acts of Congress during the termination era of the 1950s. By 1955, the indigenous land base had shrunk to just 2.3% of its original size. As a result of federal land sales, seizures, and allotments, most reservations are severely fragmented. Each parcel of tribal, trust, and privately held land is a separate enclave under the multiple laws and jurisdictions. The Diné, Navajo Nation has the largest contemporary contiguous land base among native nations, nearly 16 million acres, or nearly 25,000 square miles, the size of West Virginia. Each of 12 other reservations is larger than Rhode Island, which comprises nearly 800,000 acres or 1,200 square miles. And each of 9 other reservations is larger than Delaware, which covers nearly 1.5 million acres or 2,000 square miles. Other reservations have land bases of fewer than 32,000 acres or 15 square miles. A number of independent nation states with seats in the United Nations have less territory and smaller populations than some indigenous nations of North America. Following World War II, the United States was at war with much of the world. What else is new, right? The United States with much of the war with much of the world, right? Just as it was at war with the indigenous peoples of North America in the 19th century. This was total war, demanding that the enemy surrender unconditionally or face annihilation. Perhaps it was inevitable that the earlier wars against indigenous peoples, if not acknowledged and repudiated, ultimately would include the world. According to the origin narrative, the United States was born of rebellion against oppression, against empire, and thus in the product of the first anti-colonial revolution for national liberation. The narrative flows from that fallacy, all right? That's a falsehood. The broadening and deepening of democracy, the Civil War, and the ensuing Second Revolution, which ended slavery, the 20th century mission to save Europe from itself twice, and the ultimately triumphant fight against the scourge of communism, with the United States inheriting the difficult and burdensome task of keeping order in the world, all right? Yeah, all these wars they created and got involved in, now they're responsible. You guys see, it's all part of the script. You see what's going on today? This is what I've been trying to tell you. And you think Trump and and Biden, and you think there's any difference with all these political parties? They're all the same, guys. It's about preserving the corporation. That's why he's president. He's a business guy. Don't care about you. You bet you he cares more about his Chazar friends and family members than you. The 1960s social revolutions, ignited by the African American and so-called Black liberation movements, complicated the origin narrative, but its structure and periodization have been left intact. After the 1960s, historians incorporated women, Black Americans, and immigrants as contributors to the Commonwealth. Indeed, the revised narrative produced the Nation of Immigrants framework, which obscures the US practice of colonialization, right? Like saying, oh, we all immigrants. Oh, so let's forget about the original people, right? Are we all just immigrants? And how much percentage are you talking about in that immigrant blood? Like who are you talking about? Show me the genealogy. Yeah. So indeed, this Nation of Immigrants framework, it obscures the US practice of colonization, merging settler colonialism with immigration to metropolitan centers, just like they're doing today, right? Where do they bring all these people, right? During and after the Industrial Revolution. Native peoples, to the extent that they were included at all, were renamed first Americans and thus themselves cast as distant immigrants. All right. So not just that, guys, because she's leaving out, what I mean. But they were what? They were renamed what? Black. They were renamed what? African American. They were renamed what? Free people of color. They were renamed what? Colored people. They were renamed what? Africans. Slaves. Black, crayon color. So what, when you're saying you're African, what does that do? It casts them as distant immigrants. It casts you as an immigrant. So you never have a right to fight for your own land. Look at the cover of this book. Come on now. Look at this right here. That's an Indian. What you talking about, man? Come on, African. It says American right there. It says American right there. You guys see that, right? You guys see that, right? So we're reading a book, guys, and I'm just showing an old video of images that I have, but we're reading a book live, right? A book is physical copy. Make sure to watch from the beginning to get the whole context, okay? The provincialism, and national chauvinism of US history production make it difficult for effective revisions to gain authority. Scholars, both indigenous and a few non-indigenous, who attempt to rectify the distortions are labeled advocates, and their findings are rejected for publication on that basis, right? This is not part of the main curriculum. We can't teach what I teach. None of this stuff, most of the stuff I have here on my YouTube channel, Real History, is not taught in school. That's not part of the curriculum. They don't accept this. It's rejected for publication on that basis, right? Indigenous scholars look to research and thinking that has emerged in the rest of the European colonized world. To understand the historical and current experiences of indigenous peoples in the United States, these thinkers and writers draw upon and creatively apply the historical materialism of Marxism, the liberation theology of Latin America, Frantz Fanon's psychosocial analysis of the effects of colonialism on the colonizer and the colonized, and other approaches, including development theory and postmodern theory. All those hijacks upon hijacks. While not abandoning the insights gained from those sources due to the exceptional, in parentheses, nature of US colonialism among 19th century colonial powers, indigenous scholars and activists are engaged in exploring new approaches. This book claims to be a history of the United States from an indigenous people's perspective, huh? So do we have all the indigenous people's perspective? I think now we're gonna make sure of that, right? Hey, all love to you, to the author, like we're helping. Fair use, don't be evil. You know, if you don't like this one, just let me know. You know, like I'll take it off. But we're doing this to educate. The same thing you were trying to do when you wrote this book, to educate and make people aware of certain things. We're still doing that. We're still learning, author. You know, I hope you're able to take your own advice and see that you still have a lot of room for learning. There's opportunities there, right? For learning, right? We're not telling you you're wrong. We're saying you have an opportunity to learn here. You're not wrong, but it's because you didn't know. It's okay. But now you know. You've seen all these images, right? And if you catch up to my other videos, you'll see, right? I'm talking to the author right now, guys. So this book claims to have or it come from an indigenous people's perspective, but there is no such thing as a collective indigenous people's perspective. Okay, there she go. She's being real right here. Just as there is no monolithic Asian or European or African people's perspective. They're all different peoples. So I give you a lot of props, Roxanne. I give you a lot of props. Like, you know, this is not a history of the vast civilizations and communities that thrived and survived between the Gulf of Mexico and Canada and between the Atlantic Ocean and the Pacific. Such histories have been written and are being written by historians of Diné, Lakota, Mohawk, Tlingit, Muskogee, Anishi, Nabi, Lumbee, Inuit, Kiowa, Cherokee, Hopi, etc., right? And other indigenous communities and nations that have survived colonial genocide. This book attempts to tell the story of the United States as a colonialist settler state, one that, like colonialist European states, crushed and subjugated the original civilizations in the territories it now rules. Look, this is what we're showing right now. This is who they, come on now. This is who they colonized, subjugated, crushed. These original civilizations, right? I'm showing you right now, real primary sources of what they, some of them, you know, they were drawn like, right? Indigenous peoples now in a colonial relationship with the United States inhabited and thrived for millennia before they were displaced to fragmented reservations and economically decimated. All right. And I want to add, before they were reclassified, before they were enslaved, before they were put on paper genocide, right? Destroyed and all that. Not just put in reservations, okay? That's the thing. They're still out there in the hoods. They're out there in the inner cities all over the Americas. So many Indians. So many Indians. And this is a history of the United States. So that's the end of the introduction, guys. As we see these images right here, right? Again, look what it says, burial practices of the natives of Venezuela, right? These are from like the 1600s, 1700s, guys. Like, yeah, this was a really good book. I mean, a video, and you know, nobody really cares. We got this is like 5, 6 years ago. We still got Pan Africans talking about I'm wrong and all that. You know. So, hey Jacob, watch from the beginning, bro. You know I always show the book before I start reading it, bro. You gotta watch from the beginning, bro. And you'll see why I don't want to mention it anymore. You'll understand why. You know, we're trying to like, you know, we're trying to keep it, we're trying to keep the video up and me not get a copyright, all right? Strike. Okay. So you guys see what I'm showing you here? You guys see that? Wow. Look at that. What they doing, man? What's that right there, man? They drinking something? What? They were there burning somebody? So of course, this is how they drew people. Like they want to make them into savages and all that. You know, that's what they did. Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. Interesting, huh? Interesting. Look at all this. What's up, man? Yeah, who's mentioning the Chazars? Come on, guys. We'll be mentioning the Chazars, right? We'll be mentioning the Chazars. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put these two videos at the end of this video, the ones behind me. So you guys, if you want to hear what I'm saying and reading, go watch it if you haven't. Okay. I'll put up the links to in the description of the video. Give me some time. I'm gonna have to probably change the cover of this because we were gonna get into chapter one and it's about corn, but it's a lot longer than the introduction. So I don't want to make this like a 3-4 hour video. So people can actually sit down and watch, read, listen to what we're saying. That was a pretty good introduction just to make you aware and just to make you think of stuff, right? And I get why she was doing that. That was the introduction of her book. Okay, again, an indigenous people's history of the United States. All right. Uh, so if you watch from the beginning, you get to see it. All right, hear it again. That's the name of the book. All right. You might see a little bit on the cover, right? The thumbnail, I'm like holding something. You guys got to see it right there. Yeah, Travels to the American Interior. Yeah, that's one of the books. They got, like I said, hey Jacob, go watch these videos. I'm giving you all the sources that I'm showing the images from. If that's what you're talking about, I thought you were talking about the one we're reading. So if you're talking about where I find these images, guys, like I'm telling you where I'm getting the images from, right? As you guys can see, these are Indians right here. These are Indians, right? So, no, so I had to check out those videos. I'll go ahead and share that at the end of the video and post the links too. I appreciate you guys tuning in, right, on your Thursday. Sorry, on your Friday. Friday, we like literally Shabbat Shalom, right? We're about to begin the Shabbat. All right, so thank you for coming through. Check out homework. Thanks for coming through. I appreciate you guys taking the time to do that. I'm literally outside, guys. I'm literally outside. I'm outside in my yard. I'm outside in my yard, like little bright too. So, yeah, you're very welcome. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Chapter one is called Follow the Corn. Chapter one is called Follow the Corn. That sounds like a very interesting video, and I'm assuming I know what she's talking about, right? Because I always said, if you follow the corn, you'll know America's a true world. Just follow the corn. You'll see how we contributed to the world, right? So we're gonna read that on a separate review. We're gonna review it on a separate for education purposes on another video in the future. Who knows when? Yeah, we grown for sure, bro. I appreciate you, Matt, Jacob. Appreciate everybody in the chat, all my moderators, all people been following me for a while. Yeah, hey Matt, Joseph, hit me up if you guys are linking up. All right, I'm coming off now. I'm gonna go eat. I'm a little hungry. Suppose Holy Week here or Easter, right? They say Easter, right? So it's big in Costa Rica. It's a Catholic country, so kids got day off today of school and they got a whole week off next week. So it's like holiday here, right? And it almost feels like a Saturday today. But yeah, I've been wanting to read this again, start reading it, and I waited till I got rid of my 90 days of copyright jail I had for YouTube, right? They for nothing. They try to take my channel down for nothing. They just allow evil people to just give bogus copyright strikes, that doesn't even fall under what I'm doing falls under fair use, but I don't want to fight it because when I fight it, they make it a bigger deal. And then they like, oh, where else did he do it? And then they don't like troublemakers, so the Chazars, I'm talking about the Chazars, who own this. Hey, I appreciate you guys, and nothing beats you guys. Nothing beats this type of community. Because we're here trying to be disrespectful to people or debate everybody. We're just here for the truth. We really want to know everything. We really want to know the details. We don't want to be confused and lost. We don't want to be assuming things anymore. We don't just want to be believing. We want to know. It's a big difference. There's a big difference, all right? Let them know, man. Let them know. Big difference, right? Put the water on me. Put the water on me. Put the water on me. What's up, man? What's up, man? Move out the way, Kurimeo. Get out the way, man. Look at that nose. Look at that nose. Yeah, get out the way, Kurimeo. All right. All right. I'm a professional learner. That's what I'm saying. Okay, yeah, I wanted to address that. Somebody said, and he's not even in the chat anymore, so he didn't stick around. But somebody said something about, oh, my master teacher. No, I'm not, guys, I'm not a master teacher. I don't want to be called a master teacher. I'm more like what J9 said. I'm a professional learner. I'm a professional studier. I study. I'm a professional studier, right? So why am I saying that? Because master teachers don't have room to learn new things. Master teachers ain't willing to learn new things. All right. There's a lot of master teachers out there. And they ain't really saying they're biased. Most of them are biased. They ain't really telling you all the details. All right. So stop calling people master teachers, man. Because you putting them on a pedestal and they going somewhere else with it. Their ego carries it, and now they're like, oh yeah, I'm the master teacher. You know, the great messenger. That's a good one. That's a good one. A great messenger, right? But no master teacher, man. Like you ain't mastered nothing. I ain't mastered nothing. All right. All right. My reading glasses keep coming off. Professional learner. Yeah, J9 got the drop. J9, that's a good phrase right there. I'm a professional learner. All right. Student of life. All right. But I overstand. I overstand. Yeah. Yeah. It's talking about professional learners. There's a lot of professional learners in the crowd in the chat. I see you guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I appreciate all everybody I've encountered and talked to and had an interaction with. I see you in the chat. Thank you for coming through, man. How you doing? Hope everything's doing good, man. Because there's a lot of you. I can't go individually. I'm doing good. You know, I'm doing taking one day at a time, staying productive. That's how I'm doing. You know, we just one day at a time. You know, we in the struggle, all of us together. You know what I mean? So I hope you're doing fine too. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for coming through. Check this out. That was Indians from Cuba. That was Indians from Cuba. They were enslaved. They're going to turn it. Look at this. Bonham Park murals, Mexico, man. Oh wow. Professional learners in the in the chisel, in the hizzo. Look at this, man. Come on now. Let me move out the way, man. Let me move out the way, man. You remember who you are. You remember who you are. We just living that pura vida, man. Hey guys, I'm out of here. I'm starting to babble, man. Thanks for coming through. Appreciate anybody that donated. Appreciate you guys for listening. Oh, look at this. Oh, yeah. Let me move out the way. Yo, hold up, man. He said, wait, Kurimeo, why you blackwashing stuff, man? Why you black? Why am I saying here? They actually found that. They found that image that I just showed you right there. With their, you know, what they're doing, the lighter technology and the Maya thing, they're finding a new temple. They found it in one of those temples. They found that in one of those temples, guys. And I saw the image, this, not this one, the one before. And I found the image on that documentary that Discovery made, or I forget which channel, about what they find in, right? With the scanner, lighter. Remember that? We showed it in one of my old videos. They actually showed it real quick in that documentary. I was like, whoa, hold up. And I saw that, I paused it right at that second. It's literally 1 or 2 seconds I put it on. Look at this. Black folks, light-skinned folks, different complexions, right? Different complexions, right? So that image, they showed it real quick. And oh, that's mine, grabbing that screenshot. Other than that, they said it's gonna take 100 years for the information of what they're finding there and the excavations going on right now in the Petén region in Guatemala and Mexico, like all 60,000, 100,000 structures they're finding under the forest with their lighter technology. They're finding out the truth right now. They ain't gonna tell us. And that's why Trump and all that, you know, the world situations, it's leading to that. They know the truth's about to come out, so they're trying to have full control. Trying to have full control of you. So Don't remember who you are. So you can be distracted. So you can be distracted with these wars, right? With these wars. Body bag for the illusion. As we speak, man. As we speak, man. I wish I had music playing. As we speak. Oh, wow. Word. Look at this, man. Look at the Jaguars, that Jaguar, right? Like that's their enemies. So that's black on black crime right there. That's prisoners they have, black on black, right? This is from Canada. This is from Niagara Falls right here. Niagara Falls. That's from Niagara Falls. That's how they depict the Indian in Niagara Falls, right? This is from 1730, right? 17. Oh, he was born 1794. 1794. So that was the close-up. This is the whole image. And they showed, you saw the Indian, right? You guys saw the Indian? That's the Indian right there. It even says this is an Indian, right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, look at this. They got the Indians working. Those ain't Africans. Those are Indians, and it even tells you right here. I'm reading it. Native Americans. Native Americans working, right? Right? They got them enslaved. They look like black folks, right? They look like slaves, right? Those are Indians. Yeah, look at that. My shocked face. I think I got the thumbnail. I got the thumbnail for the video. We gotta use the clickbaiting too sometimes. But as long as we get them in the classroom, they might stay, guys. They might actually stay for the next lessons. So hey, we gotta use the clickbaiting too sometimes, man. All right. I didn't know. No way. No. Wait a minute. He's dark complexion. Close out with an anthem. What's the anthem? I don't know. Which one's the anthem? I got a lot of anthems. Which one's the anthem? Okay, I think I know. We're gonna go out with River Dance. River Dance, all right. Hold on, let me see. Yeah. Well, we got that. No, I'm unstable. No, don't go. Hold on. Hold up. Favorites, favorites. Rain. Yeah, that's a good one to go out with. Rain Dance. Shout out to Viso Breeze. Viso Breeze, yo. Breeze 3000. Viso Breeze, one of my original donators of beats. Like he did this a long time ago, and he didn't just send me one or two beats. He sent me like at least I don't know 200, maybe. I don't. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't know. Or 100. I don't know. A lot. He sent me so many beats. They're like little samples and stuff. Some of them got. I use them a lot in the beginning of my videos a lot. You guys are hearing beats. Oh, you guys know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna go out with one of his beats. Thank you, brother, for all these years I've been using your beats. I haven't seen you around, man. If you're still watching, man, let me know. But thank you. Look at this guy. These are Indians. Hold on. The Native American man, woman, and three children ford a body of water. The man carries a bow and arrow or spears. Both the man and the woman have sacks of belongings. See, they won't show you these images, right? Look at Indians. They're calling them Native Americans. Are you guys watching? Pay attention. Wake up. All you Pan Africans, wake up. All you so-called Native American thinking we're just being disrespecting, trying to take your culture. Wake up. Look at this. This is a primary source. This is another one right here from Brazil. Historia del Brasil. That's how they drew the Indians. Hey, Kurimeo, close up on that so they can see. Close up on that, man. Zoom in on that, Kurimeo. Come on, man. Hurry up. Hurry up, man. Hurry up, man. Zoom in so they can see. And this is the dismount. This will be the dismount. All right. Let them know. Show them, Kurimeo. Show them. Yeah. Look at them living in paradise. They got food. They got temples back there. Yeah. And look who's in the bottom. Look who's in the bottom. Look who's in the bottom on his butt. You see? You see the background? Oh, look at the wild man. The wild man. Uh-oh. The wild man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You see that? You see that? You see that? Yeah. Look at that. Look at that. Remember who you are? Remember who you are? Huh? Man. Man, 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 huh? Wow. Okay. Okay. I appreciate you guys coming through. That was fun. What you think, Molly? What you think, Molly? You good? Success? Molly's been here the whole time right next to me. Hold on. So I appreciate you guys again coming through. Much love and respect. Many blessings on your Shabbat, on your life. Most High protect you. Most High over everything, the Great Spirit. Yeah, we do it mainly for, to make sure we keep in the code, but also we do it for the ancestors too, And just because I look a certain way, and especially today, I'm right under the sun, looking very light right now. Doesn't mean that I can't share when you say, oh, our ancestors, the ancestors. Doesn't mean I can't say that either. Doesn't mean I'm not Indian. All right. Thank you for coming through. I got a lot more videos coming. We're going to continue with the Africa thing. I hope you like those videos. I'm not really, I was expecting more reaction from the videos of Africa. What's up, guys? Are you guys watching them? What's up? I don't see you guys commenting on them. What's up? I see you, Jacob, though. I see you. Yeah, I see you guys. I see the ones that comment. I just, help me share and like these videos, guys, because I'm shadow banned, guys. They don't share my stuff. Help me share and like the videos. Please, thank you. The least you can do. If you like to support what I do, I got my Patreon page on the description of my videos. You can link me up there, hook me up there, show some love if you like, if you're willing and able. No force, no obligation. I'm going to do what I do either way. I also have a lot of good books there that I share, even books that nobody has because I'm starting to get access to them, So I'm going to share all that here. I might scan this book one day, and put it and share it there, things like that. So come through. I also got my channel membership if you want to just get some exclusive videos, some more private videos, I've been wanting to travel and show you parts of Costa Rica and do other things, and I make it a little more private for my members and just show you guys that. But I will soon. Make sure if you want to see those, become a member. All right. But anyways, we out of here. We're going out with the anthem for real. It's called Rain Dance. Rain Dance, right? Let me make sure I got the sound working. Okay. By Viso Breeze. Much love and respect. Pura vida, mi gente. Bye.